Okay, it is 5:31, so we are going to call the Committee of Whole meeting to order for January 23rd, 2023. And with that, we are going to move into roll call. And I'll start. Alderman Prude, Alderwoman Lowe Marshall, Alderman Barron.
Here.
Alderman O'Brien. Here. Alderman Crawford.
Present.
Alderman Osinga.
Present.
Alderwoman Swanson. Alderman Marzak.
Present.
Alderman Navarez. Alderwoman Lewis. Here. Alderman Cobbs.
Present.
Alderman Johnson.
Here.
Alderwoman Johnson, sorry. Alderman Jones. Alderman Brown.
Here.
Okay, we have 9 present, 5 absent, so we do have a quorum. Next, we're going to move on to public comments. We do not have a sign-up sheet, so I'm just going to ask at this time, anyone that wants to come forward in public comment, you're more than welcome to let me know and walk up, and we'll just have you state your name, and you can have public comments. So at this time, is there anybody that would like to have any public comment? Okay. Let the record reflect Alderman Jones has joined us, so we do have 10 present. Okay. You have a bunch of papers in front of you. I'm going to kind of give you an order here. So basically, you have the agenda. Next, you should have the minutes. After that, you'll see City of Kankakee ARPA Fund Project Allocation. That is a 2-page document. That would be the third item. The fourth item is pending funding request from ARPA, which is this sheet here. And then the last one has to do with the CARPS funding, and as we go through all the documents. So next, we're going to move into item 4, and that is the approval of minutes from September 26, 2022. I believe David emailed those out to everybody this afternoon, and I provided hard copies for everybody tonight. Are you comfortable approving the minutes, or do you want more time to review those?
I read the minute.
Yeah.
Did everybody else read the minutes? I'll go ahead to make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Alderman Crawford, first from Alderman Crawford. We have a second from Alderwoman Johnson. Is there any questions, comments, changes, or additions to the minutes? Okay. I'm going to go through just before we do the minutes here. Please let the record reflect that Alderman Prude has joined us. So we have 11 present. Okay. We have a motion from Alderman Crawford, a second from Alderwoman Johnson. No questions or comments? Okay. Roll call. Alderman Prude.
Aye.
Alderman Barron.
Aye.
Alderman O'Brien.
Aye.
Alderman Crawford.
Aye.
Alderman Osinga.
Aye.
Alderman Cobbs.
Aye.
Alderwoman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Jones.
Aye.
Alderman Brown.
Aye.
Alderwoman Lewis.
Aye.
Alderman Marzak.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes are approved, 11-0. Presentations, we have none there. Again, if there's anybody that wanted to talk about presentations, we're going to let people talk interactively if they're here when we come up to different parts. So I do know we have District 111 with us here tonight, and I believe we have representatives from Fortitude also here tonight. So we can feel free if we have questions, unless there's anything you want to speak ahead of time, but otherwise they're here for questions and comments for you. So old business, you should have your second page there, the allocation, review of allocations to date. So thanks to the Comptroller Kubal and her team. This is an up-to-date as of December 31st allocations that the ARPA committee has allocated and have been approved by full city council. You'll see the actual amount of expenditures that have been spent out of those allocations through December 31st, 2022, and the balance remaining for each allocation. And it starts all the way back to the first one that we used with lost revenue for the general revenue fund, all the way to the most recent allocation, which was back in October at City Council for the second allocation of the MIRA middle income rehab there. So take a look at that. I'm going to highlight, if you've seen, overall, the city had received $15,052,449 in total ARPA funding. Allocated funds to date is $10,884,705.36, which leaves a remaining balance to be allocated of $4,167,743.64. That's an overview of where we sit as of today. I thought this would be good as we head into discussions because everybody's wanting to know what do we have left, what has not been allocated. A quick review again. We have till December of 2024 to allocate the funds. We have till December of 2026 to expend the funds. So once they're allocated, there's still 2 years for those funds to be spent. Is there any questions regarding where we're at as of today regarding allocated funds, funds that have been spent within each allocation? And take a moment and take a look at those because obviously it's first you're seeing. This is a good worksheet that you can take with you and have a complete understanding of where we're at today.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, Alderman Crawford.
Thank you, Mayor. At our last meeting, we were talking about allocating $100,000, I believe, over in Riverview and all of that.
Yes.
And that total project was looking at being about $4.7 million, is that correct?
If you did all the repairs just in that area, yes.
Were we planning on doing all them repairs, or were we planning on doing half, a third for the?
So what we left it as is you'll see tonight, one of the allocation requests tonight that came out of the ESU committee was the allocation of $625,000 for the immediate repairs, we call them the 6 or 7 gushers, the sewer line break over off of Gordon Avenue, and then also that would be enough money to also repair the sewer lines over in the Hillcrest area. So that whole Hillcrest area would be 100% completed. And then it also allocated the $72,000 for the flow study for the entire city to understand where is the worst areas within the rest of the city, because that's about 1/7 of the city that we've monitored and reviewed so far. So that's going to be one of the underneath new business that'll be coming up, that part. If you remember the whole call, it could be up to 4.7 million. We said that we needed further discussion with that with the comptroller's office because there could be some eligibility if we decide to go down that path for low interest EPA funding.
Okay. Okay, well, in my opinion, I would like to see us out of this 4.7 million left. I would definitely like to see us at least at $1.5 million or $2 million aside to finish doing some of these repairs. It's going to cost us a lot down the road if we don't repair these. Thank you.
Alderman Marzak.
I think I'm on the same page as Alderman Crawford. You know, we're looking at some serious money, and that's just one area of the city with the sewer issues. And you know, basically what was presented here the other day is we could take I believe it wasn't it a $4.2 million loan to do the project, or if we took a loan, there was like a grant for like 1.2. Was that correct?
There's a
So we're
forgivable portion of it.
Yeah, we're saving over $1 million. But my concern with the path we're going, you know, we may or may not get that money for the hydro plant. And if we don't have the money to fix that plant set aside, that plant could be generating money for the next 30 years. But we keep dipping into this money. It's just like the fire department. The fire department's looking at a $2 million ladder. We got to come up with that money somewhere. And in my thinking, we're going to have a considerable amount of money coming from Ricky Rockets out there in the gaming, and also the sale of cannabis out there. So we're going to spend $600 and some thousand out of ARPA money. I think maybe we'd be better off looking at fixing you know, that whole area of the city and taking that loan and, you know, getting $1 million off of that. And, you know, we're down to nothing here, if you really look at it. So serious consideration needs to be had. I think we need to put more than that $1.2 million or $1.5 million, Dave, away.
Is there any, Alderwoman Johnson?
Sorry. Out of the, well, I guess in the past, we've talked that some of the programs won't be using the funds that are allowed, or have been allotted. Do we know if any of those came back on paper, or do we know which
Yeah,
ones?
so, I mean, right now, there's a couple here. So if you look at, I'm going to go to some easy ones here. If you look at, let me get to it here, it might be on page 2. There it is. If you look under 2021-9, it's Francine Drive drainage. We allocated $1.3 million for that repair. Comptroller Kubal, do you think there's any outstanding there, or we're pretty much paid for that, do you think? This would be Francine Drive. I think we're pretty close to paid in full, I think. Well, there, but I meant, so, yeah, I'm sorry. So we had $1.3 million budgeted. We've spent $1.033 so far, but I think all of Francine Drive has been paid, correct? Yeah. So there's a small bit. We believe there could be a couple $100,000 there that could be allocated back to the ARPA funding. We don't have the exact numbers with, so until we get final closeout of that project, we don't want to reallocate anything back, but I believe Aqua did pick up some of the costs there for the water lines within that project. Yeah, so we expect there should be some money that would go back that way. There's some discussion that needs to be had with the CDA committee. We had allocated $350,000 for Kinky Works. Right. We need to look and see, are we going to still go down the path of that way, or is that program going to look a little different, or what we're going to do there? I mean, some of this gets to be a little bit minor, but the ICP, we budgeted $100,000. We spent $95,000, so there's $4,500 that can be allocated backwards. So it's not huge numbers. I mean, don't be expecting that $1 million is going back into the ARPA funding, but there could be $200,000 to $250,000, $300,000 that could go backwards to reallocate somewhere else.
Thank you.
But hopefully, like I said, this hopefully will give you a pretty good idea of what we spent, what's been allocated, and what we've actually physically spent as of the end of 2021. I know looking at this has really cleared it up for me very clearly where we're at, so.
Mayor?
Here, Alderman Barron.
I believe you said this a minute ago, but just to be clear on our timeline, so the money needs to be appropriated by the end of 2024?
Correct.
Is that right? So any reallocations that we do need to be done before that point?
Correct. As of December 2024, all money has to be allocated.
But it can be spent by 2026?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. So keep this as a reference sheet for you, and we can come back to this as we're talking. And we will continue to update this. I don't know, I would imagine every quarter is probably realistic, Comptroller Kubal? Just since we have to report every quarter, I assume updating the sheet every quarter would be realistic? Okay. Alderman Ron, do you have a question or no?
Well, I guess my concern is that there's been a lot of money allocated, and it seemed like there's been none requested, and I want to know why people ask for money and they're not requesting this money. I mean,
What's
you
the
see what I'm
question
saying?
again?
I mean, just like, well, I know Trinity Academy probably got their money. I'm gonna take for granted they got it.
So I believe that might have occurred after January 1, so it's not reflective on this sheet, correct? Go ahead, Comptroller.
Did you ask for PTA?
No, well, I see some of the people, I just use Trinity Academy. Kankakee Trinity Academy is just one example of people that ask for money and they never, and people not getting it. I mean,
That one, they did turn everything in, it's in the process.
oh, it's in the review.
We're hoping for that one to get that next week. It could be this weekend.
So a lot of these could be in review.
That's the only one I have on my list.
This is, so what would be a good example here? Like
Well, okay, let's take, something, software. I mean, let's go to,
ESU software?
yeah,
So we allocated the $350,000 for ESU software, but to date, we've only been billed the $135,000 for it, so. So there's more money that will go out as time goes on.
but we've been billed 135,000.
We've actually paid $135,250 towards that software. Does that make sense? Comptroller Kubal, you want to explain that, or?
Yes, Mayor, that was exactly right. We get billed monthly for that, so that'll be kind of like a drawdown basically every month off that allocation.
Okay, gotcha.
I guess another good thing would be if you look at, well, here's a good one. We'll use Chief LaRoche as an example. Ready, Chief? No, but we'll use his, the Kinky Fire Explorer and internship. We allocated $200,000 for his program. To date, he's only expensed, because he just got the program up and running here most recently, that he's only expensed out just a hair under $17,000. But those expenses will continue to come in now that he's got the program up and running and he's got people in the program, so.
Gotcha, okay. Okay, gotcha.
Alderman Osinga.
Mayor, I'm looking at this project allocation sheet, and I know there were guidelines by our wonderful government how we could spend this money. Have we sent any of these reports into the government, and if they said, no, you can't spend it on, or is everything that's on this list been allocated, it would be okay to spend money on these projects? You know that?
So I'll let Comptroller Cooper, so there's a combination here. So we're going off of, I'll let her fill in, but really quickly is, as we look at these, just like today, we're going to talk about one of the requests today. We've had legal look into it to make sure that it meets the Treasury's threshold on some of their allocations. Every quarter, Comptroller Kubal's office has to upload into the software program, basically what's been allocated, what it's been for. And then from an auditing perspective, the auditors have just expressed to us that they're going to also test it. And I guess I'll let you, Comptroller Kubal, talk about that, about as we allocate this, they're also going to be testing it through the audit process.
So based, I guess, 2 weeks ago we had that meeting, that they have their own testing criteria and audit procedures that they have to do with this money. So everything we're doing, they actually asked us to be more detailed than we're already being, which I thought we were doing a decent job. They said what you've done is good, but they even want more proof when we cut the checks, like to the, although any of you have been on the CDA committee, you know how on those sheets there's all those signatures. You know, the program manager signs it, the director signs it, I sign it, the mayor signs it. If any of you have been on that committee, you know what that looks like. So that is exactly the same type of sheet and proof, basically, that they want from us to make sure that we're saying, yes, we agree to this expense, we're saying it's under this project number, we allocate it under this resolution number, you know, those types of things, just so that it all follows through. And then when I go into the report on the federal side, I have to place in there a description of what work is being done with that money. So I'm sure at some point that if the government were to look into it, they would say, wait a minute here, software, how does that fit into things? You know, that type of thing. I mean, I, of course, put in there, it's for our utility, which works on our sewers, you know, things like that. I mean, it was much more professional than what I just said, but in essence, that's what we have to put in there is a project description for every single one of these that's numbered. That's why we wanted to do it so detailed, was because each one of those numbers has its own title and description inside of those ARP reports on the federal level.
One other thing, but if we submit this information and they decide that, no, it doesn't fit their criteria, we have to reimburse the money, correct?
That's a very gray
The-
area.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, common sense would say perhaps, but I don't really have a solid answer on that. We've been so careful with how we allocated the money. And then when the mayor and I go, so my department does the report, and the mayor has to do the final sign off. There's like 21, for as many projects as we have, basically, there's that many green boxes. So it has to fit all the green, it has to do all the boxes, check all the boxes to go ahead and be green versus red, of course, which would mean stop. You can't go any further. And green means go, which means it's good by the reporting standards. Does that fit all of the macro concepts of it? I think we're all yet to be seen a little bit on that, to be honest.
I would say this, I feel very comfortable, and that's just one person, but through the work of the comptroller's office, through the work of the legal department, through the work of Barbie and ECDA, a lot of people are reviewing the treasury document and trying to, as we allocate these, make sure it checks the box in a certain paragraph in a section where that money can fit that. Now, I will throw one last piece into there. The rules, it's kind of been a moving target since it first came out in 2021. In the beginning, it had to do with lost revenue and some different things. Now they changed the rule where you can do up to, am I saying this correctly, Comptroller, $10 million could be just come back for city's use
Of revenue replacement's
of
the
revenue
title.
replacement, yeah. So a lot of municipalities on a much smaller scale, that's what they just did. They just took all their funding and put it back into their general operation fund, I guess I'll call it, for lack of a better way, but, so. But I feel that we have a lot of eyes and a lot of people looking to make sure that each one of these fits, and that's why I said even today, I had legal looking into an allocation we're gonna talk about later. Could we allocate it? Because I got a little nervous when I thought we couldn't use it for new construction or for a building improvement, and they basically looked up the document and found I'll call it a subsection that basically, we'll use that wording. I haven't even told Comptroller Kubal yet, but if approved, we would use that wording when we file the reports of, page 37, section 32, dash AB says X, and we'd use that language of why we allocated for that based on that, so. The easiest ones, quite frankly, with this whole ARPA funding is sewer, water, and broadband. Those are the three that we know are like very easy to do, because they basically they've promoted that, so.
Well, I know in city council the other night, there was a conversation about roofs going bad on our buildings around here. And if we've got $4 million left, maybe if it fits the criteria, maybe we need to look at some of those kind of projects.
I think that would be very difficult. As I read the ARPA funding, I think that would be one that, unless we were, I don't know, that's one that I would say would have to really do some digging into, but I don't know replacing a roof would fit the ARPA funding requirement.
I don't know if that's right, but I know we
Yeah.
had that discussion.
Right.
The money can be put back into our general fund here and used pretty much the way we want.
Well, replacement, so I'll let Comptroller Kubal, but it's just not as easy as just moving it over, so.
Right, I don't know if all the other agencies are being as detailed, quite honestly, as we're being. Nothing against any of them. They are, I'm sure, are all following the letter of the law too with the replacement, because the government did stay up to that $10 million mark. But obviously, you all as a council decided that we're going to do what was intended with this money was, for the most part, yes, take care of some of the things we need, but mostly try to give it back to the community, because that's what it was given for.
The one thing that I'm trying to be very diligent about, this is still a long way off. As we said, we've got till 2024 to allocate. We've got till 2026 to spend. That's still 3 years off. Actually, it's 4 years off if you almost want to get to it. Making sure that all this money that we allocate is eligible as of today's standards, so that there is no repercussions to the city of Kankakee in 2027. So that somebody doesn't come back and has an audit and says, oh, you shouldn't have spent $350,000 on that, you're gonna have to replace that with your general income stream or something. But we're trying to be very careful in having what I wanna call 2, 3, 4 sets of eyes look at it each time.
Mayor, isn't that the reason all the applications had to go to CDA and legal? Make sure it fit all the criteria?
They're overlooking it, especially, so with a lot of what's going through the CARPS, through ECDA and different things. Again, a lot of it is making sure we have the proper paperwork in place in case when we have to submit it and when we do have an audit. So it's always easier to get the paperwork up front than it is to chase it after the money's been given out. So I'll give a good example of before the comptroller's office is issuing out checks and everything, they want all that documentation and paperwork in place so that if 8 months from now or 4 years from now somebody wants it, we have all that paperwork in place. Instead of going out to that entity, agency and saying, oh, by the way, we need this documents now because you may have a tough time tracking it down, so. But yes, it is all getting reviewed and
Okay,
making sure it
now,
fits a box.
are the agency getting all the requirements they need to make sure that they need to, what documentation they need to in order to get these funds ahead of time?
Yes.
They
So
are?
that Barbie's team, so Barbie has, that's part of what we've allocated with the community navigators and different staff within her department. That's what they're working on. They work with those agencies. So there are some agencies that, for lack of a better purpose, might be a little frustrated because they feel like it's slow moving. It's because we have to make sure they got everything in order before we can allocate the money to them. It can be as simple as having the proper FEIN number. It can be a lot of other things that they've got to have in place before Barbie's office will release that money to them or approve that money for them. And they are working with them. So there are 3 or 4 agencies that are close, but they still need some additional paperwork, and so their office is working with them, trying to get them the paperwork that they need to be eligible.
Mayor,
Yes.
for the CARPS funding, it looks like we allotted $750,000. On this other sheet, do these funds come out of that 750?
Which sheet are you talking about?
I'm sorry, on this one? And then the full year 2022-23 CARPS?
Yes, so we're really not going, so everybody, if you have, you'll see a page that says fiscal year 2022, 2023 CARP, R2 Public Service Subrecipient, okay? We're really not going to talk about this tonight. This will be talked about at the next CDA meeting in February. The reason I passed it out tonight was because I figured some people might have some questions here tonight that would say, I'm just going to use an example here. Well, what about the Azarelli Outreach Clinic? Well, we don't, the CDA committee will make that recommendation to council. That is funding that's going to come out of that $750,000 CARP funding that we've already approved by ARP. But I wanted to have you to have it tonight, when you sit there and look at it and go, well, I didn't see you talked about the Taiwan, he spelled that wrong, Hangler, that's not good, Hagler Foundation. Why aren't we talking about that? Well, because that's going to be discussed through ECDA and the $750,000 CARP funding that we already did. Does that make sense? So this, we aren't going to talk about tonight, but I've handed it out to you. In case you see a project missing, it may be on here. They'll be discussed at the first Monday in February. If you remember that was tabled by ECDA committee to have further discussion.
Can I ask another one?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're here tonight. It's been a while since we've met.
I
So,
thought we had allotted funds to the Bulldogs football.
through CARPS.
Yes. I don't see it on here.
They're not on there because it's already been approved.
Okay. So these are still open requests?
These are open requests.
Okay.
So these were requests that were brought to the last ECDA meeting, plus a couple others that were not acted on at the last meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
But there are several organizations such as Still I Rise, I think Eastside, I think there were several others that you guys approved at a city council several months ago. And those, now, you would go to that and you would say, well, we probably haven't, I don't know, I'd look. So if you look at CARPS, we've allocated $750,000. We've only dispersed $19,890 so far. But I'm sure, if I remember correctly, out of the CARPS, I think we approved nearly $290,000 or $190,000 of allocations through CARPS so far.
Thank you.
It's a little confusing. There's a lot of moving parts here, and that's why you've got so much paperwork on there so you can keep track of this, so. Okay. We're going to move on to new business, and we've got new business there, but I'm gonna switch it up a little bit because we have a couple alderpersons that need to leave. So you've got down there Fortitude ARPA funding. We've got a lot to talk about here, but there's a couple in general. And I know that Alderman Crawford, you asked because you need to take off. The discussion was, and you've got it on a sheet here. So we're going to go through all this. So you have a sheet here that has pending funding requests for ARPA. And it's a little bit of a moving document here. We've had lots of requests since 2021, some that we haven't even really looked at or acted upon, some that need some decisions to be made. And one of those, if you look at the very bottom on there, we've got Fortitude. There was discussion about the city of Kankakee providing $100,000 for Fortitude to help with the construction of their shelter, hopefully with some expectation or some assistance from some of the other neighboring communities to also join on board with allocating dollars for the homeless shelter to get it built. And the thought was the city of Kankakee trying to basically lead the effort on saying that we can allocate some money towards that and hopefully get some of the other communities to step up while we're going to house the shelter. As we said, there's still a lot of costs that with the different halfway houses, the different homeless shelters, the different shelters that we have in Kankakee, there's some costs that we have in the city of Kankakee with staff and time and different things. So Alderman Crawford, I'll let you explain anything you want there, but I know that the hope is that Kankakee would lead the charge and show that some of the other communities that we're putting some of the hard dollars up with them to follow, hopefully to get them to close their bridging gap to do their construction.
Correct. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we've been working with Fortitude, and what we've really been waiting on is for legal to write up a document for us, a legal document on this. And we're going to go to the county, Bradley, Bourbonus, and Mantino to have them, because we all know that homeless isn't a Kankakee problem, it's a county problem, the whole country's problem, but we shouldn't be taking this all on our shoulders ourselves. And the county's gonna step in, probably, same with Bradley, Bourbonus. But we wanted to get it started here with Kankakee, and we would go to the other communities and show what Kankakee's doing to help out Fortitude to get this building. Jack, would you like to say anything on where you guys are at there? Fortitude's definitely moving forward with this project, if they get help or not. It's gonna make it easier for all of the county to help out and help them get through it. And hopefully someday they get to a point with our help in the other counties, different municipalities through the county, that they will be able to have a day service fee. Go ahead, Jack.
Thanks. Just give you a quick update here. So, Alderman Crawford's been extremely helpful, but also we, back a little ways, the board decided to move forward with this project. We do not have the capital funds to complete it, but our effort is through PSI, Justin Gosselin, and his project manager to describe the project in phases that matches our funding accumulation as we go forward. So we've got we're a little short of $400,000. We've got enough to get started. So we're already working to submit permit this week, if I can, next week at the limit. We have the MEP partners, Reuter and Glady, working on some MEP details so that we can, again, break this down into phases. And if we have to, and it's something we would work with the planning board on to complete it in phases as we go forward. But if we are able to raise significant funding from Kankakee and the surrounding communities, then we go forward without interruption and complete this thing. So right now our plan is to break ground mid-March. which would put us in a good place to complete by our next shelter season. And as I said, we are going forward right now. We're moving. So, any questions?
Yeah, what amount did you say you're close to?
Right now, we have just short of $400,000, plus we have a loan guarantee of $250,000 from People's Bank.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, you sure how much?
I'm sorry?
You short for funding for how much, you said?
Well, so one of the things is we are going back through the actual quoting of each of the project phases because of the environment and the inflationary issues. You can't trust what we quoted, 3 or 4 months ago.
Right.
So that's what we're doing now, but we still expect this to be $1 million or slightly above. It's unfortunate, but that is the case. Now, we're doing some other things, for instance, Train, the HVAC manufacturer. I've spoken with them, and they are willing to, for instance, allow us to purchase units out of inventory that customers had them purchase and assemble, but did not pick up. And so if we can make, from an engineering perspective, if I can make 2 5-ton units work, and then that's what we'll do, and we get a really good price. So there are other, A.O. Smith has also come forward with the ability to do the same kind of thing, I believe. Our Marty back there has done some work with them. So we're going to plan, the execution is going. Just really, it depends on how fast we can do it and whether or not we need to do it in phases or if we can move forward. But again, we're planning on breaking ground mid-March.
You have a follow-up question? Okay. Building's $1 million. The equipment, what you need to put in the building, and the staffing, what is that estimate to be?
So we've gone through this before, but so staffing-wise, we would plan on opening with the night sheltering the way we do right now, the way we currently do at St. Paul's.
Okay.
But, so we would open not necessarily with a full functioning kitchen, although we believe we have a grant right now that might cover that. Right now, we'd open it with the same way we do at St. Paul's, where people bring food in each night, and we have a small functioning, I'll call it the microwave kitchen in St. Paul's that we can take care of folks. But we're going to facilitate a complete commercial-grade kitchen in the facility, but only as we can afford to execute. And Langlois Roofing, for instance, they've already said they're going to donate the roofing, the roofing project. So I just want to be clear here, we're moving forward. We're on this thing. It's going. So we're just asking for your help because we believe it will allow us to do an uninterrupted execution and get this thing open on time.
Alderwoman Johnson?
Alderman Crawford, do you know what the other communities are looking to fund?
No, we don't know what they're going to commit to the project yet because we haven't been able to go over and talk to them. Our plans are to meet with the county, Bradley, and Bourbonnais and have all them meetings done and over in February. So we should know what they're going to commit or not commit by the end of February. So this way, when they get started in March, they have a pretty good idea what the dollars are.
Are you going to ask for an amount to match
Yeah, we're
each
going
of them,
to, yes.
each of those communities?
Our goal is to get that other $400,000.
Exactly.
Because if we can raise that other $400,000, there will be no interruption, and they'll be able to start March 1st or sometime in March, and go straight through with the project.
We certainly would rather not have a phased approach. Right. We'd rather not. But
Alderman, when are you going to have, and who are you having the meetings with, and when are you going to have?
The meetings are going to be with Andy Wheeler in the county,
Okay,
Mayor Watson and Bradley Bourbonnais,
okay,
Mayor Shores and Bourbonnais,
okay.
and also Mantino.
You got a date on them?
We don't have a date yet. We're wanting to get this done here first, but they are all going to be completed in February.
Gotcha. All right.
And that, I think, being very blunt, your example as a leader in this area and going forward with this is a great advantage to Dave and I going out and talking with these other communities, particularly since we're locating this, on Washington Avenue. So.
Alderman Crawford? Crawford. Alderman Barron?
Thank you, Mayor. In a previous document that was shared with the CDA committee, there was a sort of a kind of a letter of intent, bare bones indication of some of the ideas that was going into the document that legal was putting together. There were 2 items in there that mentioned that conditioned on the funding, that there would come with that an agreement that there would be a security plan that would be incorporated, but then also an agreement by Fortitude to provide daytime services either on site or to partner with an organization that, so that there is a clear path for folks to go at 7 in the morning. So that it's not just leave and fend for yourself, but there is using some of the social service opportunities. Personally, I think on site is preferable from a care delivery standpoint. Is that still?
Yes, right now Barbie is working with 2 other entities that do daycare now, to where when they get open, if they're not able to start daycare right away, they will be going straight from that project or straight from Washington Avenue. They close over to the daycare facility. Don't quote me on it because I don't know, but Barbie was putting that piece.
And that would be part of this allocation, is that needs to be incorporated in.
Just a
Is
quick.
that doable from Fortitude standpoint?
Absolutely, and, as you guys all know, collaboration with other facilities in the county at all times is a critical element here. Whether it's daytime services, mental health things, emergency care, those are things that we have to have collaboration on. But the plan is for us to have daytime services in that facility on Washington, because we think we can do things better from a coordination effort, rather than having them go to different locations.
Alderman Osenga?
So you said you had a $250,000 loan guarantee.
Yes.
What are your plans on, how are you planning on paying that loan back?
Well, we have, if I could go through our budget, I'm the finance guy also. So we typically are around a $200,000 a year operating fund, roughly, in terms of how we operate. So we planned that out, and looking with Mark Kaner, I believe, at People's Bank, by the way, a terrific organization that's been very helpful. We have that all settled, and it looks pretty good. Now, anything can happen, certainly, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. In fact, we may actually qualify for more than that, but we wanted to be as conservative as we could going forward and hope that we can raise the funds from a capital perspective. And we've had good contribution, private donations and some corporate to get us near that $400,000 mark.
I have one other question. Chief Passwater, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Has there been some resistance with situations at Fortitude for working with the police?
I do know 2 times in our office we lost in the check, but both times they were told that basically they don't welcome in the building, so.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. I know that the police have asked to be able to drop folks off, and that's been a bit of a difficult situation. The new facility is a actual location in the front of the building, a secure location where someone, a police officer, could drop off someone who is in need of being dropped off, and without check-in, which is a critical part of the Fortitude process, we would allow them to be put into that secure location until we could get them through the check-in process if they were not familiar. But in terms of the police going through the facility, I have no idea about that. I've not heard that situation.
Yeah, I think one was happened maybe 2 weeks ago when officers let them know to walk through and told rather than have you guys walk through.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. Maybe there's a good reason, but I don't know.
Well, I think that's something that definitely needs to be clarified. If we're gonna put money towards Fortitude, we have to have cooperation with the police, fire, and ambulance personnel. If they need to be in there, if you're gonna tell them they can't be in there, I have a problem. If you're gonna tell them they can't be in there, I have a problem. That's a problem for me.
Alderman O'Brien?
Thank you. Jack, if you have to do a phased approach, what would phase one look like if it's not the full project?
Yeah, well, Sal, thank you, that's a good question. So, just from things I've done in the past, for instance, we would do excavation and slab on grade with all the appropriate pathways for MEP elements, plumbing, electrical, and that. But that would be a potential, if, now, we've got plenty of funding to go past that, but that would be a potential stopping point to say, okay, that's first phase. Next phase is the post-frame pre-configured construction that would dry in the building. That's the next thing. So that's the next phase. If we could not get past that because we needed to raise some more, we have the building dried in, its appearance is good, we just can't go forward inside with any of the details like installation of HVAC and that until we either achieved acquisition of those elements or we were able to do so versus funding. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, is to describe that in phases. Otherwise, we could not go after the project aggressively because we had no funding guarantees.
So the first few phases might be preliminary work, but there's no staying there is what.
Exactly, exactly.
So what happens then?
Well, we hope, anyway, is that we would continue to, our capital campaign is going to go forward.
Keep going.
Regardless of whatever happens, that's going to go forward. And as we do so, hopefully we'll be able to raise money to end up with that opening point during our normal shelter opening point in October. But, you know, it's a risk. There's no question about it. Without the collaboration, without what Dave Crawford has put together here, yeah, there's a risk there.
Is that the final number is $1 million, basically? Or?
Right now, that's the case, but again, because of economic conditions,
Right.
we're going through every one of these things in detail again. And there's ways, again, that I described, where we're going to be able to take some money out of those MEP quotes. For instance, if I can do this business with Train, which they've already talked about, I can help that a bit.
What is your groundbreaking with completion? In other words, you know, we need to approach Bradley. When does this need to happen to make, you know, it livable for this winter coming up this season?
So if I'm not sure.
What is the latest that you can have your funding where, you know, it can be completed for, you know, next season?
Well, it's a little hard to detail because supply chain issues are still a difficulty. But, you know, we should be able to complete by in September or so if we get going in mid-March. It shouldn't be an issue. But, again, supply chain issues like on HVAC equipment, if I can get what I just talked about, should be okay. If I can't, or those things aren't available, or there are supply chain issues that still exist. So, but that's the plan.
Is there any more questions for Jack? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, I'm kind of mixing up things here, but I want to respect people that are here. So we also have Dr. Walters and District 111 here. We've had discussions before in the past about, as you know, we did help the private schools. They did not get any type of ARPA funding or any I'll call it federal assistance, the private schools from the pandemic. But there was also discussion that we said that we've taken care of the 3 private schools in Kankakee, but also initiative or a desire, I believe, probably last, Dr. Walters, was it last June, May? It may have been close to a year now. District 111 did do a very lengthy presentation about their youth empowerment and different programs that they're doing at their school. And so there was discussion about being a community partner and partnering with them on helping with that group, not only from a perspective of helping with the youth in the community, but they're also working a lot with, we'll call it being a proactive approach in even public safety for that matter, giving the youth an opportunity to learn different things, to have places to go, to learn different skills, and being more proactive than reactive. I kind of hate to say it this way, but getting in trouble later on with something that maybe could have been preventable. So, Dr. Walters, I apologize. I don't think there was ever actual formal amount requested. It was just, would there be a partnership with District 111? I could be wrong. If I was wrong, I apologize, but feel free to, while you're here, I know, same thing that we just had a 4-2, there may be questions from the council members. So I had put on here, myself, a recommendation of $300,000 to District 111. So was there actually ever a formal amount? I don't think so.
There wasn't well, at first there was.
Yeah, all right. At first there was, do you,
15 million.
do you even want me to say that? No, no. I do remember that, yes, so,
So I think part of the confusion is the youth empowerment program is not a district funded program at all. So none of our ESSER funds goes through youth empowerment. We actually listed all the issues that we have with our kids and had an opportunity when I called the marijuana money. And the reason I called the marijuana money is because people are against using that money. So I want to be very upfront that it is the money from marijuana. We wrote a grant for the youth empowerment program and just pulled all of the programs that we felt would benefit our youth together under one umbrella. So the district is really just a fiscal agent. There's absolutely no money except one position that, in my position and this Tom's position, that actually goes towards youth empowerment. So here's the program. We have Team Court, the current Team Court through the state's attorney's office is funded through youth empowerment. We have youth employment. We spent $306,000 on youth employment. And there was a question that was asked about the youth employment, like our kids buying shoes with it. But even if they were, that wouldn't be an issue. But a lot of our kids are actually taking care of themselves because of the inflation, and the kids are, and the parents are struggling. But they're actually working to help take care of their own basic needs. We have youth entrepreneurship. We're working with our students to start developing their own businesses. We have the race car program, which we started during the pandemic as a way to have kids active without being in close proximity to each other. We have mentoring program, tutoring program, the African American Male Initiative, girls group, the Hippocrates Clinic we supported because we needed more support for our Spanish-speaking families. And then we have the mini bike program, and everyone knows why we have the mini bike program. Because that was a problem for our kids. And which we should start in the spring officially. We did purchase our own mini bikes because the Honda program doesn't exist anymore. Streets to Work, and then we have college visits, annual HBCU tour. So that's all came through our youth empowerment program that's funded by competitive grants. And so we keep asking for competitive grants to keep it going. So honestly, whatever you give us, we appreciate. We will put it towards whatever you would prefer for us to put it towards. We would put it towards that program.
so,
Actually, youth employment is the best though. Because the youth employment actually goes around to the community and actually helps with the community too. So they actually go and cut either elderly or older people's lawns for free. The youth employment part is where we would, if we ever partner with renovating a house, that would go through the youth employment. Like we would pay our kids to help, but they're also learning a trade at the same time. So if you wanted to allocate the money towards that partnership, that'd be fine too, because we haven't been able to start that partnership.
yeah. And that's something that we had talked about, and I need to help get those discussions back on my end, but the city taking one of the, what I want to call maybe one of our better conditioned homes that we own, because I always believe in starting small and having success stories, but having a better conditioned home that the city owns and putting that into the program with the union trades in District 111, where the union trades would come in, work with the students at District 111 to teach them different trades, and then have a house fixed up, and I've always kind of said, and I think Dr. Waters agrees, is you may have a student that thinks they want to be an electrician till they do it and go, I like the carpentry part better, or I like to be the masonry tuck pointing part better than working with electric or something. But having that where to know where to go when they're 18 or 19 years old into the trade. So
Out of that meeting, we started paying handyman service.
Yeah, I actually was going to speak on that, Mayor. Last summer, we actually already started working with the city. We cut a lot of city properties with the handyman service. We cleaned up a lot of city properties with our youth. I had already talked to the mayor about that. I had talked to Alderman Brown about that. So without getting any funds from the city, youth empowerment already started working for the city. So I really advocate that we take care of youth empowerment because we are already trying to take care of the city. It helped DPW to be able to do a lot of other things instead of going to cut grass and cleaning up yards. We did a great job in the 7th Ward, and Alderman Brown and Alderman Jones didn't even know we'd done it, but they thought DPW, but our kids actually did that work behind St. Joseph and Fairmount. So we already working, and we're gonna keep working, but we need the money for youth empowerment.
Yeah, and I would prefer for it to go towards the working part of it, because this summer I would like up to students, send our students out into the community work. And we're very careful who goes out and who stays in. So some of our more challenging kids stay in, but our really responsible students are the ones that go out.
Alderman Jones.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Did we get that situation Dr. Waters addressed about the entry in and out for the new building that we're building out there? Did we get it for Chief of
No, I
Works?
actually got an email that said we're supposed to be meeting on January 26th at 2 o'clock. That's what we were talking about, but I can't meet with that appointment.
Okay, you know, we had discussed that, Mayor, where they could get in and get out, and maybe we could help them with that situation, because they didn't have a road, you know, leading in and leading out. And I think what was it gonna cost, like $100,000 or something like that?
I actually don't know, by school code, we do not have to have that. That's a request from the city.
Oh, well, I know Chief wants to keep everybody safe. Are you aware of that? That we didn't have a road leading in? Okay, but that's necessary,
But
right?
the request from the landscaping is the city requested landscaping, and I agree with that. That would make it look nice. So we were willing to pay for that part.
Also think that should have nothing to do with this money. I think if
Yeah,
the city,
that's two different things.
yeah, I think if the city's requesting that should be coming from a different area instead of dealing with this situation right here. So I think what's at hand is this here, instead of dealing with that road in and out, that's a totally different situation.
You also got to remember these, again, going back to, we talked earlier with the ARPA funding, there's certain check boxes that we have to have there, and construction is sometimes very difficult. The
Okay.
thing that I talked about with Fortitude is there is a segment in the Treasury that talks about you can do construction for halfway houses, shelters. That situation is eligible. That's what legal looked up today, because I was a little concerned at first that they did say that you just can't use it for our source. Their funding's different than ours. Our money cannot be used for just, we can't just go build a building with it. But it was very clear that halfway houses, shelters, that addresses with homelessness and stuff is an eligible expense to use ARPA funding to help create and construct. Other things on construction, as I think Alderman Osinga talked about, putting a new roof on a building, I don't know that checks a box, so. So it is two different discussions.
Okay.
ESSER funds, not ARPA.
Yeah.
And we were able to put only $8 million into the community center because of social emotional issues with our students having some place for them to develop their social emotional skills and get to the grade. So I know everybody focuses on the athletics, I know that there's a lot more to it than the athletics.
Oh,
Not necessarily full cost.
did you have a question, Alderman Brown? or-
Just a comment. I think the youth empowerment, the employment part of it, I think is very important, because we got a lot of kids just during the summer don't do anything, just hang around. And I think that would help that a lot. A long time ago, we used to have youth programs, youth summer programs that help kids to stay out of the street. And I'm for that. I mean, I'm for giving that money to youth employment. But I don't understand about the shoes. I don't understand that.
Someone made a comment, like criticizing how our kids were using the money, and they were using it for extra stuff. But most of our kids are using it for basic skills, they're not using it for, just
The
like.
money they earn?
Yeah.
It's their money.
It's their money, they can do what they want.
Wait. They earn the money and we criticizing?
People are criticizing their use of money.
Well, see,
Another criticism was that we had all the football players and we're just giving them as much. Like, actually, they don't even have time to work. So that's not even true. I will admit there were two young men, one of them was working for the city, and we needed him to go to do some things at school. And then one young man, his mother had a GPS on him, she still couldn't find him. And so we had those two in very special situations where we, in the summer, we paid them because they had to show up in school.
Well, I'm for youth employment. And I don't care what they buy. I mean, if they learn to earn their money, I hope they learn to spend it. That's another course. But the fact of the matter is, they need to learn how to earn their own money. I see too many youth just sit around and just walk the streets, so I'm for youth employment.
And I did talk to Carolyn today. We are going to bring back the KEYS program again this summer that we did last year, so we'll be bringing that back again.
Good.
Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mayor. You mentioned checking the boxes. I can't think of many better uses of this money than the youth empowerment program. I think that checks all the boxes and complies with really what the intent of this law was all about, investing in communities, the youth in particular in the community. So I support that. In my mind, I don't know that we need to designate where it goes. They can decide what the best and effective use would be, in my opinion. But I support this request and think it's a great use of those funds.
Let's not put it all in one box. Let's designate a box. I mean, we got the box checked, and she just said, my understanding is that the youth empowerment, the employment part is not well funded.
Well, we thought it was until we started getting so many students applying.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I think that's the best use.
100 students employed at this
Yeah.
point.
Okay.
At different levels.
Yeah,
some more than
I understand. To me, that would I think you get a better bang for your dollar if you put it there.
And can I say, I'm constantly every day getting more kids asking to become a part of it. So they're really seeing the benefits of going to work, and they're trying to make their own money, and they're doing positive things with this money as well. And we're also looking at doing a financial part of it, teaching them how to spend the money and how to save the money. So it's a lot going on with youth empowerment, and you know I've been pushing this for a long time. And so I'm really, really praying that we take care of them.
I'm for putting in the work. I'm gonna be honest with you. That's what I support.
And they're actually largely involved in some of our building staff at this point. So we're actually putting some things in that you would put at your own job, like our responsibility in terms of coming to a conference, telling them what their expectations are, understanding what discipline is. I mean, like, we're starting to put those supports in place, because we also don't want to teach them bad habits of thinking that they don't have to work just to get paid. Oh, some of the adults have that same problem, but we don't want our kids to think that they can go to work and not work and still get paid. So we're putting some other supports in to hold them accountable for what they're supposed to do.
Well, I'll be a senior citizen this year, and I'll be unemployed. So,
I'll be over, Alderman Brown.
thank you.
You could actually, I would love, we need more supervisors.
No. After 30 years.
Did you just vote no on the program? Is that what you did? Oh, that was no to be a supervisor. Okay.
Supervisor, yes.
I think he should head that.
Yeah, I think you'd be good at that.
Alderwoman Johnson,
Supervising the kids.
I don't carry guns anymore, guys.
Alderwoman Johnson, you had a
Is that
question?
a motion?
What type of jobs do they do?
You know what, it's literally solving any problem that we have that we need help. So we were having a problem at Kennedy with we needed more custodial support, and so we sent a team of kids over to Kennedy to help the custodians do more deep cleaning for Kennedy. So they're doing custodial work, they're doing concession stands at the high school, they are,
Office work.
oh my goodness, there's one little girl that they argue that the buildings argue about using her for clerical work and organizing our curriculum materials. They're going to Pembroke to organize curriculum materials at the beginning of March. Pembroke is also one of the areas affected by that R3 counts as part of the R3 funding. Even though any county student can be involved. But Pembroke and parts of Kankakee were specifically targeted, so we allow a lot of more support at Pembroke than we may in other areas. Oh, when we had to have the lunches, and there was no staff there were a couple of them that actually helped pass out lunches. So things like that, cleaning the buildings.
They also go out and support community groups. Like they went out to Johnson to help with their picnic, setting up, breaking down. So they do things of that nature. So any organization they need any outside help, we send them over there to help as well.
They help with the church in Berkeley or
They help, we help with the church in Bradley, cutting their yard. We also, they also helped us with our back-to-school bash, setting up, breaking down. So they are really helping in the community wherever they need it.
I did ask the state's attorney, one student wants to be an attorney, and I asked if we could place one student in the county because he's interested in being an attorney. So we would pay him to work with the state's attorney's office. I think that they're starting a CEO program with the number of a CEO program.
Yes.
Our students will be paid to be in that CEO program. Yes, I'm talking to the other districts, but it is a county-wide program.
Is there any other questions? Alderman Marzak?
Personally, I have no issue, supporting the youth and giving them some path, to maybe in a future career. But I look at sustainability. I do like the idea of, taking some of our, it's not like we have a shortage of houses that need to be renovated. If we could somehow, put a program together like we're talking, and it'd be a self, when they sell the house, it goes right back into it, and, you can keep, sustainability there. If it's just supporting labor, it's going to run out. So I would love to see, solving several problems, giving them a path to career, have them learning trades. I know the Career Center, they go out and they actually build a house from ground up and sell it, but, that's a whole different aspect than renovating, which actually is sometimes harder than building a brand new house from ground up. But I like the idea of, taking one of the houses that, like you say, and seeing a success and maybe parlaying that again.
Is there any other questions for Dr. Walters? Okay. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Okay. Go ahead, Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. There are one of the things that's not on this list.
Yep, we're going to get to that, yes.
Oh, we're gonna get to that?
Yep.
Oh, okay, I'll
Yep.
leave it alone then.
Yeah, no, we can bring it up now. So I wanted to, with the guests that we had here, I wanted to at least have them in case they have other obligations that they need to get to, that they could speak about it. But you'll see in front of you, this is a sheet that has everything from at the top is Garden of Prayer Youth Center, all the way down to Fortitude on the bottom, of different requests that have been made to the city of Kankakee. One that was left off here, and I apologize, is Alderman Brown asked about adding, for the fire department, the aerial, the ladder truck. That should have been on there, allocating funds for the purchase of the aerial truck. And if you haven't been in the public safety committee meetings, Chief LaRoche has talked about that. Those trucks, as of today, are about 1.8 million ballpark, and probably maybe not even that, could be even more expensive as of today or tomorrow. And they take anywhere probably on a quick timeline, 2 years to obtain, could be as long as 3 years to obtain, by the time they build it for the city. Public Safety Committee has been talking about that. Alderman Brown had come and requested that we place on the ARPA agenda, and I had a discussion with him on Friday, was an amount of, let me back up. Chief LaRoche, you've applied for a low-interest loan for $300,000? $350,000 that would be used towards the aerial truck. Alderman Brown's suggestion was utilizing $1 million of ARPA money to help fund or purchase that truck, and then have to figure out in a couple of years how we would pay the remaining, we'll call it $500,000. I did talk to, I apologize, that should have been on here, but I did talk to Alderman Brown and tweaked it and said that a pathway to maybe funding that aerial truck is potentially $500,000 from the ARPA funding, $350,000 loan, low-interest loan that Chief LaRoche requested. And we're going to have to get into it. This is a discussion for another night. Okay, it's not tonight. Tonight's ARPA meeting. But as we know, the dispensary should be open, we hope, by May. I'm working on the numbers that we project that what that will mean to the city of Kankakee. And so we have to have a discussion again. A couple years ago, we had that discussion. There was a lot of discussion about social equity programs, pension obligation bonds, other things of how to use the cannabis money. If you think about it, we've gotten this ARPA money, and we've been using that a lot for social equity programs, but there's more to go. Pension obligation bonds, or pensions, our pension debt, we have addressed with our pension obligation bonds. And so I think we need to have that discussion about how do we allocate percentages and stuff of the cannabis money. That is another discussion we're gonna have, and we'll probably do that at a budget meeting. But with that, my thought is the cannabis money could be quite significant. We won't know until a full year of what that means, but I think in talking with Comptroller Kubal, we expect to be very conservative in the budget about that money that will be coming in. It could be more than that, and that's fine, but we want to be very conservative. Last thing we want to do is, you budget 100,000 and only 10,000 comes in, and then you've got a shortfall. But we believe it could be significant, and the discussion is maybe using that cannabis money over a 4-year period to help pay for that fire truck to the tune of $1 million, $250,000 somewhere dollars per year for the next 4 years of the cannabis money. To then end up with a truck in 3 years that doesn't have to be bonded for with capital money or levied against a tax bill, almost basically paying with it in cash in a sense, minus the low interest loan that we would have. That's a long story to get to where I went to Alderman Brown and said, instead of asking for $1 million, could we fund the $1.8 million? $1 million from cannabis money over a 4 or 5 year period, low interest loan, and $500,000 from ARPA. I apologize, in working with David today, I forgot to put the fire truck on there for $500,000. So that should also be on this list, and I'll let Alderman Brown speak anything else he wants to that there, so.
I think you said it all. I mean, one of the things that we looked at is having a revenue stream that come in that will pay for this without having to raise taxes or try to bond or anything like that. I think the cannabis money that's going to come in from that dispensary is going to be huge to me. And I just feel like in 3 years, in a year and a half, we'll know what that number is anyway. But in 3 years, we're not going to get that truck to at least 30 months. 30 months. In 30 months, we'll know how we can pay for it. To me, the best thing to do is have a steady stream of revenue to pay for it. And with this answer that question, this new money has not been designated nowhere else, and we can use that money right up front to pay for something that's going to be here. But with that $500,000, we can start ordering that truck today or tomorrow. And that's what I'm trying to get at right now. We'll have the revenue to pay for it, and after 30 months, I think we'll know. So that's why I agreed to that, and I think that was a good idea, Mayor.
So that on your list here of different things, I forgot to include that, and I apologize. So you can handwrite that in there. As we go through, there's several others that are on here. I put on here some different recommendations that I just put. That means nothing. You guys decide where this money goes, but I wanted to put some recommendations on there of how certain dollars could be allocated. You'll see some blank lines where I have no recommendations. That's because I just didn't have one for those particular line items. I do want to address the 2 hospitals. When we initially met, both hospitals did get funding, but part of the ARPA money was basically to help with the pandemic and different things there. And so initially we had met with both hospitals back in 2021 about what some of their needs were. They both did come forward and make awful large requests, you'll see. And both of them were for their emergency rooms and dealing with not only COVID and pandemics, but also dealing with any other pandemics that might come up in the future, and having the emergency rooms to be able to handle situations where they couldn't handle it at a time when there was a lot of people hospitalized. You'll see Riverside Hospital requested $2 million. And St. Mary's requested, they got down to the penny, $895,860.78. I do have a breakdown of how they requested all that money, but those are two large numbers that I don't think the city is in position to be able to handle or be able to assist those large amounts. I do think there is a mutual benefit, though, to partnering with our hospitals. They are two key entities, two of our largest employers in the county. They're both located in Kankakee. Some of the other municipalities have assisted some of them with some of their money, but these were requests, and so I made a request that again, kind of like with District 111, I think there is what we did with the Park District, and quite frankly, we did with a couple of the private schools, all three private schools. I think there is a value and a benefit to continuing to partner with other agencies that they'll help us and we help them, and long-term, there's a win-win for the city of Kankakee and some of these other agencies. So those were the requests. They both made these late last summer, last fall. I let them both know when we were going into home rule that, we had taken a pause in September on any of these meetings here and that we wanted to get through, so it's our first one since. But that was my recommendation there. The rest, I have no other recommendation, or I guess I would call it, I didn't make a recommendation because we do need to keep some money set aside for the city of Kankakee. We do have 2 years. Quite frankly, we have 4 years, but we've got 2 years to decide where it goes. I do believe that it is good to try and be able to keep a couple $1 million at least set to the side and go from there. So I wanted to put this all out here for discussion to see what everyone's thoughts were on the different programs here, and where you go from there. So I will say there's one other piece that I've got listed on here, and there actually is an action item that we have here tonight at the ESU committee. If you were at the ESU committee, many of you were, you saw we've got some severe sewer line problems, significant. I mean, you're probably talking well north of $30 to $40 million if you were to fix all the city's sewers in the city of Kankakee, and we know we can't do that all at once, but it's a lot like our roads, but these are the things that are underlined that we don't see. They're not sexy, but they are things that we need to fix, and you saw the videos where you have just in the sanitary area that they did, we have some large gushers where there's literally 2 million gallons of water a day that are flushing into the sewer system that doesn't need to go down to Karma and be treated. Their recommendation was for about an engineer's estimate for about $550,000. They could fix, as I mentioned before, all of Hillcrest area, so all of Hillcrest would be 100% fixed. The crushed sewer line along Gordon and about 6 or 7 gushers that are letting that 2 million gallons of water go into into there. Those would all be fixed. And then also to be able to have the flow study done that we could analyze the other, I'll call it, that's about 1/7 of the city that we've analyzed, do the other 6/7 of the city, understand where we might have potential heavy flow going in, and doing that was a cost of about $72,000. So ESU recommended, I believe 7-0, to recommend to this committee for the allocation of $625,000 to begin the sanitary sewer lining repairs. We allocated $600,000 for the manhole repairs. So this would be about $1.2 million, but it would significantly fix a lot of our sewer problems. And so that was a separate recommendation to, ideally, out of tonight, at the very least, I'd like to get that recommended, if that's the consensus of the committee as a whole, so it could make the next city council meeting for approval from city council, because that's when they would go out for bid and have everything ready to basically hit by April, those repairs, and get them started quickly. So with that, that's a lot that I just talked about. Here's the whole sheet that we can talk about tonight, what we want to do, not do, talk about. But more importantly, at the very least, is I'd like to see if there's a recommendation from this committee of whole to allocate $625,000 for the sewer lining repair and flow study to city council.
So move, Mayor.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
All right. So we have a first from Alderman Jones. We have a second from Alderman Prude. Is there any questions or comments about it? Alderman Osinga.
I don't know if everybody attended the ESU meeting the other night and saw the video that Robinson Engineer presented to us, but it's just unbelievable the amount of water that is flowing through there on a daily basis. That water ends up going down to Carmen, and then we get charged for that, processing that, and then it's water. This is absolutely money. Definitely got to take care of this. I don't know what other issues are citywide, and that's why those meters, I think, would be very handy to put them out throughout the city, but yes, absolutely.
Alderwoman Johnson.
In the video that you referenced, there was one that they thought was a possible water main down by, on Cobb.
Yes.
Can we work with Aqua on that one?
We've already talked to Aqua.
Okay.
Because they may not realize that
Right.
they're losing, we don't know if that's river water or groundwater, or is that actually domestic water that's going in? They wouldn't know because it wouldn't surface anywhere because it's just going straight into the sewer. But we've already mentioned it to them, and they're going to look into it. I'm getting them the video so they can look at it, so they can figure it out. And if that's on them to repair, that'd be great.
Yes.
But they have a concern too, because they would hate to see that much domestic water just being wasted, so.
Thank you.
I did, Alderwoman Johnson, I did ask about the flow meter too, about should we be purchasing those meters versus, we right now, if you remember correctly, we own 3 portable meters now that we purchased, plus one fixed one at Stone Street. I did talk to Zach and said, well, wouldn't it make sense for us, even if we don't rent them all, if we even purchased half, like 4 more? He said, quite frankly, 3 is more than ample to own and be able to move for the future. He said, you would really, with the personnel power, wouldn't be able to be taking 6, 8 of them all over all the time and figuring out. So in his opinion, because I thought the same thing, should we, even if we didn't purchase 10 of them, should we be pushing 2 or 3 more? And he said, quite frankly, 3 is more than ample. Once we have the flow and the study and everything done, he said, we can take those 3 and move to any parts of the city and know what we need to do, so.
Thank you.
Alderman Marzak.
I guess my only comment would be is, you know, the sewer problem's not going away. I mean, with the 625, we're just addressing, you know, the immediate need there, but, you know, that whole area, if you looked at, you know, that presentation, you know, the lining has to be done. You know, if we're going to save $1.2 million, shouldn't we be looking at going that direction and, you know, go ahead and, you know, get a loan? And, you know, we could also use the gaming money from Ricky Rockets and also the, you know, dispensary funds.
The thought process was it is we know that we think this is the worst area of the city, so that's why we said we should at least fix those gushers and everything. But with the flow study, we wanted to find out is, before we just go ahead and fix everything down in Riverview, the sewer line,
Right.
they may still have 10 years life left on them, where we may find out that we could go into the 1st ward or the 3rd ward and find out we got some major flow issues over there. And again, I don't think we have the ability right now to be going out and borrowing, even at a low interest loan, $30 million, but.
Not 30, no.
Let's find out if there is a 4 or 5 million, we need to dive into that much deeper. We need to figure out how we're going to pay that back.
Right.
You know, what's it going to potentially save us at Karma? But find out where in the city 4 million might have to be spent. But I think that's going to take us some time to figure that out. That's not a decision I think we're going to be able to do this spring, so. But a low-interest loan might be the way to go, but again, then we also have to figure out, like a question of, how do we pay back that loan?
Right.
Any other questions regarding we have a motion on the floor for the approval to City Council to allocate $625,000 of ARPA money for sewer line repair and flow study. I'm going to do roll call. We'll go the opposite way. Alderman Navarez.
Aye.
Alderman Marzak.
Aye.
Alderman Brown.
Aye.
Alderman Jones.
Aye.
Alderwoman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Cobbs.
Aye.
Alderman Osinga.
Aye.
Alderman O'Brien.
Aye.
Alderman Barron.
Aye.
Alderman Prude.
Aye.
Okay. 4, 7, 8, we lost a couple, so that's 10-0, correct? No. 4, 8. Yeah, 10-0. We will pass that on to City Council. Okay. Really, I just want to highlight one more thing, and then we're going to get back into the meat of this discussions. But I put on here video ARPA funding. I'm meeting with, one of the things I think, and I don't know if the council agrees, I think we've done a really good job of allocating our ARPA money. You know, you always are gonna think you do better than somebody else, but I think, you know, we've spent our ARPA money on a lot of, everything's eligible, a lot of needs for the city of Kankakee, a lot of things for the youth, a lot of things for the neighborhoods, a lot of things for public safety, a lot of different areas. And I feel like we need to promote that. We need to let the public know what we're spending $15 million on. And sometimes it's hard to just watch this video, and sometimes hard to just be able to see it on a piece of paper. So we are putting a quick little video together, and I hope to have a draft that we can maybe show you within the next 10 days of what we've allocated the money on so far, and we can always tweak and add to it, that we'll be able to share with the public, whether you share it on social media, or you share it at different committees, but we can share with the public, hopefully some, we'll call it 60 to 90 second video about how we allocate our ARPA funding and the different things we've done, showing some of the rehab homes, showing that we've helped schools, showing that we've helped youth football, showing that we've helped sanitary sewers, quite frankly. I think if you can show, you know, that water flowing in and showing how you're solving that, how we've given technology for the police department, how we're helping internships and explore programs with the fire department and different things. So you'll see more of that. I hope to share that with everybody in the next 10 days, and then we'll tweak it before we take it to the public, but I'd like to get everybody's comment input on it before it goes out to the public. But I think we need to promote ourselves a little bit, because I really do feel that this council and the leadership of the departments have really done a good job of, you know, quite frankly, there's a lot of municipalities, and I'm not trying to be negative, but it's going to come off that way. A lot of municipalities just put this money into their pockets, and they're going to run their operations with it. We've really, I think, done a good job in getting it out to the residents, out to the agencies, out to the other entities out there, and we've taken care of ourselves too. And that's part of taking care of other things within the community too. But, you know, park district, all kinds of people, library, that we've really done a very broad spectrum of trying to take care of the city of Kankakee, but also taking care of all the businesses, agencies, and residents that live in the city. So we'll get that out there, and hopefully it'll show that, you know, we need to wake up one of these days and be able to promote and look back that we spent a once-in-a-lifetime $15 million, what we think is a proper way, and I think we've done a pretty good job, thanks to you guys. So with that, you have in front of you the funding requests. Now's the time to talk. If you guys want to continue, I guess it even kind of goes into the next meeting. We talked about having meetings quarterly, just because of, we need to sit on some of this money, quite frankly, and protect it for the Kankakee, but what's our thoughts on some of these allocations here? And Alderman Marzak?
I just, you know, if we're going to make a decision on the Fortitude thing, I think, unless we're waiting on something else, I think we should probably, you know, make that decision where, you know, they can move forward. You know, because we're going to be sitting here come fall going, are we going to approve another request at St. Paul's? So I think if there's ever a shot where, you know, Bradley's on board and Bourbonnais, and I think now would be the time. It's either, you know, unless we're waiting on, you know, other legal.
So we can do lots of things tonight. We could, again, there's some blank spaces here. I'm curious what some of the other people's thought on some of these blank spaces. We don't do them. Some of my thoughts and recommendations, you know, you like them, you don't like them. We can do one item if we want to just do one item, or we can do lots of different things, however you want. So we can break it down however you guys want to break this down, so.
Mayor,
Alderman O'Brien.
I think the items where you put in mayor's recommendation and number there, to me, those are the most significant and important requests that we've received. They're also requests we've had for some time, held off, given the home rule discussion, and now we're beyond that. So I think we should move forward on those items, which if my math is correct, that would leave us with approximately $2.1 million unallocated if we granted all of those requests, the number that you request there, including the 625 we just did.
Do you include the fire truck?
That's included in the fire truck. That
Okay.
includes the fire truck, yeah.
Okay, that's what I got.
If you put the fire truck into it, that is $2,025,000.
Yeah,
Right.
so that would leave approximately $2.1 million unallocated. based on the.
Right,
the-
so you'd have, yes, correctly.
So I'd make a motion to that effect, that we do that, and, know we have plenty of time to spend the remainder of the money, and that we proceed cautiously.
I think once we get to that stage, we're going to have to proceed cautiously, so, and we have time. So you've made a motion to allocate, I'm just going to spell this out so we're very clear. You've made a motion to allocate $2,025, $250,000 to Riverside, $250,000 to St. Mary's, $300,000 to youth empowerment. We already did the 625, but you're including that in there. $100,000 to Fortitude, and $500,000 towards the purchase of a new aerial truck.
Correct.
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion from, let me just, I gotta get my notes, 'cause, so I'm gonna, we already approved the
It'd be
625, so why don't we say
1.5 million, right? Already did.
Yeah,
this.
1.5 million, correct?
Correct.
No, 1.4 million.
1.4.
1.4.
Since we already approved, not
Yep.
including the 625, since that was already.
Okay. So I've got a motion from Alderman O'Brien and a second from Alderman Brown to allocate $1.4 million of ARPA funding to approval to City Council at the next meeting, as we broke down earlier. Is there any questions or comments? Alderman Osinga.
I only have one comment, and the gentleman from Fortitude are here. I'd just like to reiterate that I know there's been resistance to work with the police in the past. And I'd like some guarantees that in the future, if there were issues, that the Fortitude people are going to cooperate with police and fire or whoever they may need. I know there's been a problem in the past, a couple of them. That's wrong. Only comment I have to make.
There is I'm expecting legal to have the document for Fortitude. I did talk to Mike today. He's hoping by Thursday Thursday or Friday, he can have that for everyone's review, so that'll give us plenty of time to have that before. Fortitude will need to take a look at it. We're hoping it's a template for other communities also. Not that they have to use it, but it'll be a template that they can use. And that'll have, I'm assuming, I have not seen it yet, but I was assuming it would have some of Alderman Barron's concerns in there. Your concern, I can talk to Mike Sanchi about that and have that all as part of it, and then we can review that. Plenty of time. Hopefully, we can have that 2 weeks in advance of the next city council meeting, or at least, I guess, 10 days. Alderman Barron.
So at that point, we would be able to approve the recommendation from the council perspective with that agreement in hand.
Yes.
Right. So it could be part of the same.
And if there needs to be further discussions on that document, we could always make the motion subject to a document that would need to be approved at a later date or so.
Fair enough.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call. Alderman Pruden.
Aye.
Alderman Osinga.
Aye.
Alderman O'Brien.
Aye.
Alderman Barron.
Aye.
Alderman Cobb's. Alderwoman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Jones.
Aye.
Alderman Brown.
Aye.
Alderman Marzak.
Aye.
Alderman Navarez.
Aye.
Yep, 10-0. We will forward that to City Council at the next meeting. Okay, with that then, our next meeting won't be till April 24th. We'll continue to meet quarterly. Hopefully, I'm assuming they will be very short meetings going forward for a while, because I think it's the consensus of everybody that we're going to be wanting to sit tight a little bit for a while. But I still want to keep those meeting every quarter, because there may be something that comes up through ECDA or some reallocation or whatever we need to take a look at, so. Alderman Barron.
I just wanted to say, I think we could start the reallocation process, at least an eye towards it, sooner rather than later. I
I
mean,
agree.
that seems to be an area, we have 2.1 left, but just looking at the numbers, I mean, I think there's well more than 200 or 300,000 that we
Okay.
could allocate.
And we-
So, just given the timeframes, if we keep an eye towards that,
So maybe at the next court, that's what we could talk about, the next ARPA meeting, is potential reallocation at that point.
I think that
We
makes
might have a better handle where we're at, so, okay. All right. With that, it is 7:06. I apologize. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, everyone.